So
Absolutely.
I'm curious what your first impressions were when of the wrestling business, and what the first hills you had to climb originally that maybe
You
gave you
know,
some pause.
I was terrified when I first got into the business. You know, I was very afraid. I felt like, I mean, my personality, especially at that time, was like, I've got something to prove and I've got to figure out how to be the best, and I've got to figure out how to be the best tomorrow. So, you know, it was a very humbling experience, because that's not how this business works at all, you know? Um, but I also felt like I was at home, because I've always been that kid that kind of had her own little identity that I held on to, that was a bit of a misfit and a black sheep and a little bit of an outcast and a little bit of a rebel. So I felt like in a lot of ways that I could be myself, you know, and that no matter where I went in that business, there was always going to be space for me, because there was nobody like me. And that's what I loved about the business, is that we embrace the different, you know, and we can talk shit about each other,
Right.
but you can't talk shit about our business.
No.
You know what I
No.
mean?
I
And
do.
it's very much a family. It's, you're in.
Mhm.
Once you're in, you're in. And I love that. I love that about it. You know, and I love that I'll always be a part of that. So
Mhm.
my first impressions, I was scared at first, and then, you know, I went down to Deep South, and I was terrified of Bill DeMott, and then after a while, Bill adored me. He's like, "You're so crazy and cute," like, ah, you know.
Yeah.
So you just have to work hard. You have to work hard, and you have to love it and show it its respect. That's it. That's it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard in previous interviews that you had the opportunity through I believe an agent said, "Hey, you don't want to do this," and you were like,
Oh,
"No,
yeah.
actually I do." And
Yeah.
is in your childhood and coming up, what were, before even getting into wrestling, um what were some of the obstacles or emotions that made you want to pursue something that really puts you in a spotlight?
Uh, I get so I just knew ever since I was 2 years old that I was not going to have a normie life. I knew that. I knew that I wanted to be on TV. I knew that I wanted um, to act. That was originally my first love and passion was acting. And then, so something that I shared really special with my grandmother when she came to the US is she loved watching wrestling. And to me, I didn't understand it at first, you know? Here's this lady with all of her gold jewelry on and her apron, and she would just sit down and watch wrestling on our old TV. And that was just something that we shared together. Um, so when the opportunity came, I was like, I know this is for me. That
Yeah.
that makes sense, you know? So it was
Which
never something that I thought I absolutely want to be a wrestler. That was not even on my wavelength. But you know, I'm a big believer in there's really no coincidences. So I just knew it was just my path being lit up, and I was gonna go with it. So
and you took the chance, and you took the that leap of faith.
yeah,
And it sounds like may not have happened without that experience with your grandmother. Do you think?
I would not have done it. Absolutely not. No. You know, because the thing is, at the time, I had already a contract with CBS for Deal or No Deal,
For Deal or No
and I had
Deal?
to give
Yeah.
Deal or No Deal up to do wrestling. So, you know, I got a lot of flack from people when I was coming up, saying, "You haven't paid your dues." I haven't paid my dues, but I did sacrifice, and I did choose to be here. So, um, yeah. So that's what it was.
See, wrestling is such, as you know, you can do everything. You can come from the a background of tremendous struggle, but they want to see you love it and work hard for it, as you said. Um,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
there's really no, even for the participants of the Diva Search that became a part of the WWE before it was the universe, I guess the family. They they had to pay all their dues in their own way, and I saw it because I was in OVW when Victoria Crawford, Alicia Fox, and Barbie Blank and Kelly got there, and Melena Roca, Rosa Mendez, like they had their own set of hurdles to climb.
Yeah.
And just being a woman in the business.
Well, you know, people talk about being a woman in the business, but I don't think that people ever factor in the fact that, you know, especially for Barbie and Victoria, these were like 18 and 19-year-olds. These are your formidable years when you are supposed to be dating and in college and having these types of experiences. You are on the road in a boys' club.
In a boys' club.
In a boys' club. And I can't speak for anybody else, but there was nobody protecting us. And I don't mean protecting us from the boys. I mean sheltering us from what was appropriate and not appropriate for us to be doing at that time. And nor should there have been, though. It's, you know, it kind of comes along with it. But I think that people forget that we were doing exactly what any 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old would be doing at that time. That just, it was what it was, you know?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that fans don't realize that they're not holding space for people to grow and to learn and to make mistakes, you know?
Yeah.
We're human too, you know, we're human too. And what's really nice though is that there really wasn't social media to the level that there is now. Thank God.
You ain't lying. Like, woo. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you said is it's so important. I think, you know, I was in my the early 20s, mid 20s when I moved to Louisville, and I wasn't on a contract yet. Took me about 2.5 years to earn one as like an announcer and Dusty Rhodes' assistant once I got there. But I was in the contract classes because I was a small announcer, so I could interview people.
Yeah.
They want small people, right, to make
Yes.
everybody look like a giant.
Yep.
And I remember, you know, in retrospect, I look back and I go, just what you just said. I go, they were 18, 19, all these young ladies drop in with the sharks, and the ones, you know, there was some people were obviously genuine and had good intentions. Others, wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then there was
Yes.
also the ones who just gave no understanding to what they were going through. How did you experience that in Deep South? And then, well, mate, let's start with Deep South. What were your experiences there in that sense?
You know, I was really lucky at Deep South. I lived upstairs from Mike, Miz, and I had a good friendship with him. So it was cool, you know? So I don't think that I really ran into any of that at Deep South. I would say more so when I got up to the main roster, you know, more so witnessing things, I would say. Yeah. I don't think the same things would happen today. Like, there's no way.
Mm-mm.
Not in
No,
this. No.
No, I think there is a sense of the culture is some of it's never going to change in a way. I don't think, and but I think that has drastically improved.
Oh, absolutely.